You see, I grew up in America. I grew up in the land where phrases like, I have a dream, meant something. I grew up where I believed that freedom existed, that that's what I was fighting for, that our founding fathers made America the land of the free and the land of the brave. This is America, damn it, and I'm taking it back.
And now your host, Tere Joyce.
Welcome to the Freedom of Joyce show on Revolution Radio. And you know what? I am realizing I am having a huge faux pas here. I've got my sound on there. I so apologize for that. I've already had the most bizarre morning. Apparently there's a tree outside my door that they're going to be cutting down that I had no idea of right before I was ready to broadcast. So hopefully we don't have any type of interference here on the show, because we do have a really great show scheduled today. My guest is Ryan Payne, who is one of the militia groups, the very first one to respond at Bundy Ranch. He's with the Operation Mutual Aid, and he's going to be coming on here in a moment. With me, too, I have my co-host, Laurie Buckley. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Great, beautiful day.
Yes, it is a beautiful day. It definitely is, and thank you for being here. And everybody knows this, but we do say it at the top of each show. Revolution Radio does not do any advertising, so we are completely listener supported, and which is really great because we know that we're not in it for the money, and most of the hosts. None of us get paid here. We're giving this information and participating on the station because we want to be connected and give and help the world know information, and so that we can do something and have solutions and make a difference in the world. So if you can give us a donation, please do, and go to our website at freedomslips.com. And it is towards the end of the month. We do have so it's the last day, and your contribution will be so much helpful to keep us up on the airwaves. And thank you so much. There is, before we start, I just want to share the lighter side of freedom today.
Hi, this is the Freedom Report with Tere Joyce, and the news today is missing CEO found. Missing CEO of Armageddon Inc., Mr. Lucifer Beelzebub, whose whereabouts have been unclear for quite some time, has been sighted and is thought to be alive and well, living inside Vladimir Putin. We may well be seeing the end of a long and harrowing police search for the reclusive yet global executive, who is wanted for serious corporate crimes, such as creating genetically modified politicians, inventing banking, socialism, and skateboarding. The latest sighting, however, seems to have taken detectives by surprise, for they had been concentrating their search on Washington in the belief that Mr. Beelzebub had been living for several years inside Barack Obama. The latest report that Beelzebub has been sighted in Putin is nevertheless being taken seriously and backed by such convincing evidence as sworn statement by Britain's Prince Charles. Prince Charles' eyewitness account that Vladimir Putin is just like Hitler in every single respect, except the mustache. This was confirmed by an urgent call from John McCain, inventor of the oven chip, and recently voted the most vacuous politician in the history of the world. Mr. McCain later explained, "I have a large number of friends who are just like Hitler, so I'm qualified to spot the signs." A lead investigator for the NSA announced that as far as we are concerned, we now have Lucifer Beelzebub, and the mystery of his whereabouts is now over. Our message to Beelzebub is that there is now nowhere for him to hide. Well, at least not until the next presidential elections. This piece was written by Steve Cook, and this is an abridged version. If you'd like to read the entire piece, please go to goforwardtogether.com. That is the Liberty Beacon UK.
And the Liberty Beacon sponsors my Freedom of Joyce website at freedomofjoyce.net. So I'm going to get on with the show here and get going because our guest can only be here for the first hour of the show. So I'd like to introduce Ryan Payne to the show. Thank you for being here, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And so I'm just blown away. I'm so excited to actually have you on the show. And there are a few questions here for me to ask you. And one of the first things I'd like to know, or I think you have a good answer on this, is why have the militias come under such negative propaganda?
Well, that you'd have to explore the nature of what the government is doing at this point. They have the people that control the government essentially control the media. I don't think that's any mystery.
Yeah.
Their purpose is to demonize the militia, and there's one very good reason for that. The founders of this country, in the writing of the Second Amendment, most blatantly states it. And so I'll say that real quick. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And this displayed the founders' belief and intent, and all of their supporting documents, including their personal correspondence, reiterate this fact, that they believed an armed populace capable of defending themselves from all foreign invaders would also be able to defend themselves from an insurgent, oppressive government. And so if the government wishes to continue down the path of tyranny and oppression, then they have no choice but to mitigate the effects of an armed populace, and especially the trained armed section of that populace, which is what represents the organized militias. So it is a concerted effort to demonize the very people that they view as the enemies to tyranny.
Well, thank you for answering that question. I feel that a lot of people don't realize. I feel that they're asleep and they don't realize that our government is getting out of control. And with all of how we're the big campaign for us to not be armed and to give up our guns. One of the things that I don't think we realize is that the right to bear arms is so that we can protect ourselves if our government goes out of control. And so you being at the aid of Bundy Ranch, do you feel that that's pretty much what your motivation to have done what you did?
Well, the motivation is to form a barrier between tyrants and the oppressed. The Bundys had snipers sitting on the hills around their property. They were, I'm sure you've seen the videos where they were being tased and police dogs being sent after them. Elderly women and pregnant women being hit with vehicles. They were going to stop at nothing to complete their goal of rustling the Bundys' cattle. And whether those individuals believed in the benevolence of their cause, they were in complete violation of their oaths, especially the special agent in charge, Daniel P. Love, that they would defend the Constitution and uphold it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. These are treasonous actions in full light, and it's our duty as fellow countrymen to come to the aid of each other when we're in distress. And the Bundys put out that distress call, and that is the purpose of Operation Mutual Aid, is to we have formed a network of people that will respond to these calls, these distress calls for help. And I think it proved effective.
Were there any other groups present besides you guys on the first day?
Sure. Operation Mutual Aid is only a network, not necessarily a group. But it's just a bunch of people that have agreed to the mission statement that basically explains that we will be that barrier between tyrants and the people that they're trying to oppress. And so we receive the call. I make first contact, and if they're requesting aid, I tell them what type of aid it is that we're going to provide. In this instance, Mr. Bundy said, I'm not telling you to come here and bring militia and bring guns. What I'm saying is we need help, and if you believe that you can help, then please help us. And so we just disseminate that call to a bunch of individuals and militia groups, and if they feel that the call is legitimate and worthy, then they respond. And I think in this case we found that many people found the cause to be legitimate and worthy.
It feels like, and again, I'm following a lot of the mainstream information that's happening as well as like what's being circulated on the internet. So it feels like a lot of people, want to paint you guys as the bad guys. The militia came out and that you were the ones that seemed to be the aggressors. But from what I understand and from what I've been interviewing, it was them. It's the BLM that we really needed protection against.
Yeah, well, the first instance, for instance, on this, the BLM, when they were doing the tasing of Ammon Bundy and had that whole instance that's blown up on YouTube with the them hitting the women and having the police dog and all those things. We were there for that. Me and a group of individuals were already there. And essentially, a guy that came with me from Montana, Jim Lardy, he was standing right there watching the entire thing. Now, we were specifically asked by the Bundys at that point just to maintain a security element, and if they were, not to be aggressive, and our intention is never to be aggressive. Militia is inherently defensive, and at that point, there was not a belief that anybody's life was in danger. And so we maintained our just a security presence. Now, if they had drawn guns at that point, then that would have changed the circumstances, which is exactly what happened on April 12th. When the BLM did have assault weapons and more vigorous crowd control weapons pointed at the innocent, unarmed people that were there to retrieve their cattle, which they've had a lawful right to do. And at that point, we maintained a defensive presence, but an overtly defensive presence. At no time were we aggressive. At no time did we go out there looking for a fight. We went out there specifically to protect innocent people, law-abiding citizens, God-fearing, Constitution-loving Americans from what is presenting itself as an ever-increasing tyrannical government.
Well, that is so wonderful to hear, and again, I really appreciate you sharing this information with us and bringing light to the issue of what is really happening. I'd like to ask you another question here as well, and so you just recently moved from Southern California to Montana, and so is there a reason for this that has to do with Bundy Ranch?
Oh, no. I moved up to Montana a couple of years ago, and I'd always wanted to move to Montana since I was a teenager. Military service, and after I got out of the military, I moved back to Southern California and began pursuing businesses. There always seemed to be some reason not to move up here, and finally just decided that it was time. But there's some other reasons other than just personal desire. And as I'm standing here on my deck staring at the beautiful mountains, the reasons that I moved here are reinforced just based on the beauty and freedom that's still available up here. But this is also a great place to raise a family. The people around here are more family-oriented. They do things as a family. You still have some of the societal problems that are permeating our entire culture, but the effects of them are much less known because of the lack of population here, and it's just a great place to live. So no, it doesn't have anything to do with the Bundy effort, and in fact, I only became aware of what was going on down at the Bundy Ranch on the Sunday before the April 12th standoff. I believe that was the 6th. So 2 days later, I was down there, and it was a pretty quick series of events.
I've spent some time in Montana a lot. My background is I work as a stand-up comedian, and so done several shows. Montana's a really beautiful place, and so I'm sure you're enjoying it. I always enjoy going and spending some time there. It's quite nice. And so now, what is your ranger experience?
I was in a unit in the Army called the 18th Airborne Corps Long Range Surveillance Company, and we were a 18th Airborne Corps surveillance asset, which is a human intelligence asset, deep penetration unit, formed into 6-man teams that are sent to places where the Corps commander or any of his subordinate commanders require up-to-the-minute human intelligence on the ground, where there are no friendly forces and where no friendly forces have been. And so, behind enemy lines, however you want to term it, for target acquisition, battle damage assessment, search and rescue, a whole range of different tasks that the unit I was in could perform. And you can trace the lineage of these units, these long-range surveillance units, back to Vietnam. They were known as long-range patrol, specifically our unit with a LRP unit. And it goes back to World War II with the reestablishment of ranger units to perform a specific mission. And the lineage of Rangers goes all the way back to 1756 and the French and Indian War, Rogers Rangers. And so I think that the Ranger lineage is one of very outstanding performance in the defense of liberty.
Have you ever had a problem with overcooking your cannabis oil? You probably wanted to rip your hair out when you burned off all the THC, right? I even cried one time when my brownies failed to make a good impression at the party. Well, I stopped crying when I found Magical Butter. Magical Butter is a device with a microprocessor-controlled program sequencer. It was designed by a scientist and a chemist to precisely extract the benefits of various herbs. Magical Butter easily makes botanical butter, oils, tinctures, lotions, sauces, and more. Magical Butter heats your oil and your herbs at the perfect temperature every time. Check us out at magicalbutter.com because it's magical. Okay, there's a lot of science and chemistry involved, but it sure works like magic.
If you are in the Portland, Oregon area and are an OMMP card holder, then come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market, Portland, Oregon's first and only weekly OMMP market, presented by the Alternative Wellness Center, located at 5241 Southeast 72nd Avenue, 2 blocks south of Foster Boulevard, close to public transportation, held every Sunday 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., connecting quality vendors with patients. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market also has a weekly raffle with products from every vendor, so come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market and have fun while connecting with quality vendors and getting great natural medicine. If you are a vendor and want a chance to connect with OMMP patients, you can check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Alternative Wellness Center or call 971-888-4392. Be sure to register early because space is limited. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market.
I don't know about you, but when I cultivate my clones, I want to give each and every one the best chance to grow into a mature, healthy plant. But after a few cloning cycles, I experienced decreased root density, slimy stems, or even worse, no roots at all. Growers know that reusing cloning collars results in failed clones. And cleaning cloning collars between grow cycles requires extra work and decreases root density. That's why I use PermaClone. Permaclone collars have been engineered to prevent failed clones by providing heat-sterilizable collars which fit easy clone, turbo clone, or power cloner systems. Permaclone collars can be dry heat sterilized, pressure cooked, or autoclaved to completely kill all bacteria and fungi without harsh chemicals. Start cloning with confidence today and visit us at permaclone.com. Put in the code T for hemp with your order and receive a 10% discount on your purchase.
Headshot Canada. Based in Saskatchewan, Canada, it is shaking up the medical cannabis industry. Headshot Canada helps Canadian citizens in getting a medical marijuana license. They do this by filling out the paperwork. They also help explain your needs to your doctor and also help find the right strain for your condition. For this service, Headshot Canada charges a nominal fee of $100 and your participation in a research and development study to test the effectiveness of different cannabis strains on various medical conditions. Owner and founding farmer Tim Selinsky wants every Canadian to know that you have the universal right to a marijuana license. Unlike Compassion Clubs, Headshot Canada's goal is to get the right strain of cannabis for the ailment at a fair flat rate price for the patient no matter the strain. Headshot Canada offers 57 strains of cannabis grown at family-owned farms in Saskatchewan as opposed to Canadian federal government's one strain of irradiated garbage grown in a lab. Go to headshopcanada.com.
Free? Did you say free? Free hemp? Free hemp? Free hemp video and audio? Free downloads of all the top artists, all the pot artists on planet Earth. Interviews with all the people making the movement, making the hemp movement. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp.
And definitely the pursuit of it at the beginning. And thus, I think that the Ranger Creed and everything that the Rangers have stood for throughout the history of this country is a great representation of what we should stand for today as patriots, especially those patriots that are willing to put their lives on the line in defense of liberty.
Now, have you taken any heat from this with being a Ranger?
I think I've taken heat from a lot of people that don't view my service as being a Ranger, and that's okay. I think a lot of it stems from unit pride. You know, there are 75th Ranger Regiment, which, you know, and they're a great unit, a great regiment. They perform a great mission, and I think that a lot of those guys don't view anybody who's not in 75th Ranger Regiment as a Ranger. And you know, I would have to, you know, have them ask the people that I served with that called themselves Rangers, that every day we formed up, we were called Rangers by our commanders and our the subordinate leaders. So I think it has more to do with unit pride. And there again, there's been a concerted effort by individuals, organizations, or people in the media to you know, say that I'm stealing valor or something, was not a Ranger, and that's okay. All it does is expose a concerted effort to demonize those who are actually engaging in the fight for liberty and standing up for innocent people. So I don't think they're doing themselves any favors amongst the truth seekers.
No, I agree with you, and I do feel I feel that they are demonizing those who are standing up for liberty, and so just speaking with you from your point of view and what you have to offer in protection is really opening my eyes to a lot of things, and I hope that that's happening to the listeners that are listening right now. I'm curious as to what are the background of some of the other people that join Operation Mutual Aid? Do they come from a military background? I mean, how is it that they come skilled to protect people?
Yeah, there are definitely over 70% of people who have volunteered with Operation Mutual Aid are veterans, and the ones who aren't have been very impacted in their lives by veterans. I find the common thread is people who have experienced the oppression of the government firsthand, or know people that have experienced this oppression firsthand, and at some point it has turned their entire existence into, we feel ourselves pulled in this direction, that we are supposed to offer this service, that we, especially those of us that have taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, which is the people's Constitution, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, which is essentially to uphold the will of the people, that their Constitution be upheld. And so we put this network together. There again, there's no command structure or anything like that involved with Operation Mutual Aid. It is simply a mission statement that those people that agree with it will endeavor to uphold it. And that mission statement, very simply put, and you'd have to go to the website and read the whole thing if you want to see it. But
where's your website at, so the listeners can know?
It's Operation Mutual Aid, normal spelling, the number 1 .webs, WEBF.com. And but the very brief mission statement is that we will stand between our and you know, these people are very committed. Many of them are very committed to that mission, and I think more and more people that figure out that there are those of us that will stand, you know, with them and between them. It will give the people a refortification of their own duty to stand up to tyranny and perform those acts of valor and high moral character that are required when you're facing the incredible odds, like standing up against the most powerful government in the world.
Do you, now, let's say somebody says, okay, I want to join you guys. I can do this blank, 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 blank for you. This is my role here. This is the way I want to contribute to Operation Mutual Aid. Do you vet these people out? Do you make sure that they're sane or that they're not working for the other side?
Well, obviously, we have to be constantly on guard for such things, but I much less enjoy pursuing you know, figuring out whether somebody is working for somebody that is against us and our mission, than I do allowing people to put forth their comments, put forth a display of their character. And if we find anything that is we're completely opposed to, then the general consensus among everybody who joins is that we don't want to be affiliated with people who are espousing violent ideals or, you know, going out and taking action in a direction that is not conducive to the overall goal, which is the restoration of a constitutional republic. And those people are generally we're unaffiliated with. But as I said, there's no command structure here or any way to discipline these people. All you can do is unaffiliate yourself with them and kind of express your contrary views. I think what you said was out of line. I disagree with it, and for that reason, you probably won't be receiving the call to come help defend these people if that case arises, because you're a loose cannon. We're not exactly sure what to expect. So no, it's not something I like to obsess over, that's for sure. I'd much rather enjoy the serenity that comes from being surrounded by like-minded people.
Yes.
And standing up for something that is right.
Well, thank you. Thank you for explaining that. You know, we are going to, probably in about 3 minutes, we are going to probably go into a break here. And just so you know, because that we will still be on the air, so you just want to make sure that you either mute your mic or just be quiet in the background, and then we'll come back again. But so I just want to let you know that we are coming to a bit of a close here at the moment. There's a couple more. I think we can go with maybe one more question, and then if we end up getting cut off, then we can pick it up after the break. But here it says I have a comment here that you drove all night to bring support and supplies. Did you drive all night from Montana when you got the call?
Yeah, actually, the gentleman that I came down there with from my local unit, the West Mountain Rangers of the 41st Mountain Field Force here in Montana, Jim Lardy, he drove all night, and I was on the phone all night. So we drove down together, and I spent the night and the opportunity with travel time to make probably hundreds of phone calls and send out emails and generally pursue what the mission of OMA is, which is to disseminate that call for people to come help. And, once I arrived there, we were definitely the first militia to get there. It was amazing, the sense of a giant weight being lifted off of the Bundy's shoulders. And many of the women told me this. Mr. Bundy reiterated it, that it didn't really take much. Once we arrived on scene and they could tell we were comfortable doing what we were there to do.
To the Freedom of Joyce show. With me is Ryan Payne from Operation Mutual Aid. It's one of the militia groups that were out there helping Bundy Hill. And sorry for I had a little bit of a mix-up earlier this morning. You can imagine what I just went through there where I live at. They decided to cut a tree down, and hopefully there's not any extra chainsaw noises going on in the background. And if there are, I apologize. Totally unexpected. And right like 3 minutes before I'm to sit down and start the show, I'm having conversations, and it was horrific. So maybe a little bit discombobulated there for a second, but I feel like I'm getting back into the groove at the moment. Ryan is with us, and also Laurie Buckley is co-hosting with me. Hi, Laurie.
Hi, baby. I'm so fascinated by the conversation that I did not want to interrupt until a moment was free, because it's amazing, and I want to say thank you, Ryan, for your service, and all of those that have taken the time to risk their lives for us, and also to stand up for the things that are not as they should be. And it's a fascinating conversation. So go ahead. I'll jump in a little bit, but I just want to say that it's
Sure.
a privilege to hear the clarity and the dedication to the freedom and the liberties of people that in this country, because we surely require it.
Well, I want to answer, first of all, I speak for myself, but I believe that the sentiment is shared amongst all of the individuals that responded and have agreed to respond in the future all over the country, that it is our honor to do such, and we definitely feel that it is our duty. So no thanks is required, but thank you for your consideration.
Well, you're very welcome. I just want you to know that it's a love thing. There's some you make it all make so much sense, and we must be also dedicated to those who are speaking with us with such challenging credos to stand up for us, and it's just a beautiful act of grace.
Ryan, you mentioned here, we're communicating through our Skype, and again, the word domestic terrorist is being thrown around a lot. It could be anybody who is protesting, Occupy. It doesn't matter. There's a point where you're concerned. Someone's concerned about being made such a label, especially since we have the NDAA bill, where we can be kept incarcerated with no trial, just by that name being said. But now you're mentioning in your eyes, or it seems like Harry Reid would be considered a domestic terrorist for the actions that he's doing, and so you can be put in the reverse.
Well, first off, there's been a lot of questioning and curiosity as to why we maintained a presence at and around the ranch after the standoff occurred. And there's varying reasons for this. The first and foremost being that as soon as I arrived at the ranch and spoke with Mr. Bundy at length about what it was that was taking place, and he kind of drove me around and gave me some awareness of what was going on. We established 3 objectives, And very briefly, the first objective being the protection and security of everyone involved, and that includes the Bundys, all of the protesters, and the law enforcement and federal agents that were there. We were definitely not there to harm anybody, and want to see everybody, especially those agents, return home to their families and their normal lives, as we should all have the liberty to do. And so it's more of imploring them to do the right thing and uphold their oaths and abide by the Constitution, because we will take all means necessary to secure these people and ensure their safety. The second being the reopening of all of the public lands to the public, and especially the people of Clark County that are the stewards of the specific lands in question here. And the BLM has taken the stance at the behest of the federal government that they own the land and that they are the stewards of the land. And not only is this unconstitutional, unfortunately it's a failure on we the people's part to take our own responsibility and be the stewards of our land and also be the stewards of our freedoms and our liberties and our rights. So that was the second objective, which was accomplished, the reopening of those lands on the 12th. But to maintain a presence to ensure that those lands would not be attempted to be closed again, and to ensure that they were open to the public. The third was to ensure the return of all of the Bundy's stolen property, and to help them reconstruct their infrastructure that had been developed over the last 100 years by the Bundy family to support their cattle operation, open grazing cattle operation. So after the 12th, none of these three objectives had been achieved. The first of which we know was not achieved because Harry Reid came out a couple of days later and said that we were all domestic terrorists, including the Bundys and all the militia and all the supporters there. And just as you said, given the light of the National Defense Authorization Act and the government's stance that they do not negotiate with terrorists, we know that they don't, they've also shown themselves completely capable of violating the Constitution in the effect that Anwar al-Awlaki was not afforded a trial by a jury of his peers before he was executed by a drone strike in a foreign country. And so, given all of these circumstances, it was only prudent to set up a defensive structure and try to maintain the security of the people that were all involved. Not to mention there was still a protest stuff going on afterwards, for weeks afterwards. And so a presence was requested and I believe required.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
I don't know about you, but when I cultivate my clones, I want to give each and every one the best chance to grow into a mature, healthy plant. But after a few cloning cycles, I experienced decreased root density, slimy stems, or even worse, no roots at all. Growers know that reusing cloning collars results in failed clones. And cleaning cloning collars between grow cycles requires extra work and decreases root density. That's why I use PermaClone. PermaClone collars have been engineered to prevent failed clones by providing heat-sterilizable collars which fit easy clone, turbo clone, or power cloner systems.
Permaclone collars can be dry heat sterilized, pressure cooked, or autoclaved to completely kill all bacteria and fungi without harsh chemicals. Start cloning with confidence today and visit us at permaclone.com. Put in the code T for hemp with your order and receive a 10% discount on your purchase.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com, or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Have you ever had a problem with overcooking your cannabis oil? You probably wanted to rip your hair out when you burned off all the THC, right? I even cried one time when my brownies failed to make a good impression at the party. Well, I stopped crying when I found Magical Butter. Magical Butter is a device with a microprocessor-controlled program sequencer. It was designed by a scientist and a chemist to precisely extract the benefits of various herbs. Magical Butter easily makes botanical butter, oils, tinctures, lotions, sauces, and more. Magical Butter heats your oil and your herbs at the perfect temperature every time. Check us out at magicalbutter.com because it's magical. Okay, there's a lot of science and chemistry involved, but it sure works like magic.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp.
On the second note of ensuring that the land stayed open, I kind of already answered that. And on the third note, there are still restructuring operations going on. There are militia on the ground that are helping the Bundys get their water troughs and water situation handled, helping them to locate the cattle that are on those lands so that they can get an accurate count. So here, even a month later, we still have all three of these objectives that are being met, and I believe successfully. But it'll be a determination of the people on the ground, along with the people of Bunkerville, when our presence is no longer required.
Wonderful. And again, thank you so much for your comments and for being here today. I apologize if anybody's hearing any type of chainsaw in the background on this, as well as a huge thud from a tree. But I had no idea this was going to happen today. I'm just reiterating, again, if it is in the background, oh well. But hopefully your information is out there. I believe it's still, people heard it really well. Now, how does a militia get formed? And how does one start a militia?
Well, the first piece to starting a militia is to recognize the necessity for it, which is outlined, as I said before, in the Second Amendment and via all of the correspondence of the founders and the supporting documentation for the Constitution. And once somebody or a group of people realizes this necessity, it's merely the formation of the unit itself that needs to take place, adopting certain standards, a training regiment, deciding what type of unit they would like to be, whether it's an intel unit, a scout unit. There's some dragoon units, which would be equine, horseback. There's all kinds of different units. So just deciding what is necessary for your area. And most militias are based at the county level, and with various counties sometimes coming together to form a larger structure. And this is for the defense specifically of the smallest level of government, which is the best, the county level. And, there again, a lot of units come together and cross-train on things like communications and different techniques for whatever area they're in. So I think that making the network with individuals that can properly train a militia unit is imperative, and adopting standards and upholding them. And at the same time, I believe that I don't know if this is in the political spectrum or what it is, but trying to push a militia unit into the public eye. This is something that a lot of militias are shying away from and have been for years, is being open, public, and sharing with everyone what their mission and goals are, because they are for the people, and thus the people should be well informed as to what their existence entails. And also it affords people that would like to be involved that might otherwise not know about it the opportunity to become involved and get that training themselves and offer what they might feel is their sense of duty to the militia. And just for some clarity, most states have it written right in their constitution who the militia is. For instance, in Montana, it's everyone between the ages of 16 and 45. It is the militia. The word militia, all it means is the citizen soldier, the citizen in his capacity to protect his community. So if you're a citizen and you possess the means to defend your community, then you are the militia. And all it is a sense of organization that needs to take place, and people training together, coming up with plans of action for certain scenarios that constitute a well-regulated militia.
Fantastic. So now, do you plan to go back to Bunker Hill? I mean, do you see yourself as having a continuing role there?
I have been requested to assist in the establishment of the Bunkerville militia, so I will be returning there to assist with that effort. The people of Bunkerville at a town hall meeting about a month ago were very energetic in their display of a feeling of incompetence with their local government, which is the county of Clark in Nevada, dissatisfaction with their entire government structure from the federal level all the way down to the county level. And they even expressed displeasure with their town level, the elected town board of Bunkerville. And so I think there's a big awakening that has taken place in one of the most corrupt counties and states, one of the most corrupt government structures in the country. And, I will be returning at their request to assist in whatever efforts they have going on for freedom and liberty in their area.
I do feel it's so nice to have you on the show, because I get a sense that you're ultimately wanting to protect people against, what you view and your group views as our government getting tyrannical against the people, and that you're really looking to resolve, to be peaceful and practical in every tactic that you're doing. Until ultimately, let's say they shot or whatever, then you would respond as you would if you were a soldier. Am I right in how I'm feeling?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the object is not to pursue violence. It's not to pursue war. Nobody wants that, and those of us that have witnessed war, we especially don't want it. And we don't want to see our country engulfed in the effects of war. And it is a horrible thing that nobody should have to be exposed to, especially our citizens. And that's why there's those of us that have taken that oath. And I'm very happy to see that peace and freedom have essentially prevailed in our country up to a few years ago. But it is disconcerting also that our main defense mechanism, which is the men and women that have volunteered to serve this country, are spread out all over the world. They're operationally exhausted. They're performing missions that aren't really pertinent to the United States. They're pertinent to financial interests and other foreign interests around the world that the people of America have no concern in. And not to mention a an unconstitutional standing army that has existed ever since the Civil War. And later than that, you have this state of emergency that has been reenacted by every president since 1925, I believe. This is unconstitutional. If those individuals were able to go back into their communities and help form militia or help train militia, become part of the People's Security Force, then the requirement that the federal government be in charge of national security would be much easier met than constantly draining the people of their resources by taxing them to death and stealing our men and women from us, which are our main resource of defense. And so that is basically a void that we're attempting to fill that has been purposely created by the government in order that they would seem like the benevolent protector of everyone. Thus, we're more comfortable giving up our rights to this entity because, look how good they are, and they're all over the world fighting for freedom. It's all an illusion. They are not over there fighting for freedom. The individuals, don't get me wrong, the individuals may be under the impression that they are over there fighting for freedom, but we are the only country in the world, besides Russia now, that is going around the world, invading other countries, occupying them, and changing their government structures and all of these things. This is not America. This is not what our goal is. And definitely with all of the threats that are presenting themselves on the world stage, it's time to bring all the men and women home and get America back to a defensible level where we can protect our freedoms, our rights, and our homeland in its entirety.
Well said. Thank you so much. Laurie, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I have a question. It's so fascinating, this conversation. I'm wondering, there must be some mutual appreciation between you and law enforcement, because your appearance it brings that extra energy to the Bundys, which says these people have a right to feel safe. And how is your relationship with law enforcement and the BLM people? Do they recognize the purity of the sense of what your stance is, and how do they treat you as you're there for the Bundys?
Well, they definitely respected the tactical advantage that we presented them on April 12th. I can say that much because they backed down, and we haven't seen the government back down from anybody in a long time. So at least they respected the amount of people and firepower we were able to amass in a very short amount of time. And I know that there have been individual instances where some law enforcement officers have displayed their gratitude. I think that law enforcement is in a very precarious position, and it's unfortunate that they've been put in this position, but it is also unfortunate the ignorance that has prevailed, that they have allowed themselves to be put in that position. And that position is they are in between the people and the federal government, which has co-opted them by bribery, using financial, quote-unquote, aid, which is not aid at all. It is exactly bribery, in that we will support your department. The federal government says this. We will support your department, and in turn you will offer us, they call them mutual aid agreements as well, which is interesting. If you Google Operation Mutual Aid, we're the very first one that comes up, but underneath that is just a ton of government mutual aid agreements, which means that our local governments have been co-opted into the federal structure. This is completely unconstitutional, and it's being promulgated by financial assistance. So the departments say, well, what are we to do? Should we give up all of these assets and all of these things in order that we can maintain our constitutional stance? And my answer is yes. Your duty is to the people of your county and to uphold the Constitution, which affords the people of that individual county certain protections and a constrained, limited government. And these law enforcement officers really need to start brushing up on their Constitution. They really need to get in line with understanding what a law is and a code or a regulation, which are not enforceable. They really need to start educating themselves, and I know there's some organizations out there that presume to do so, I know that there's some organizations that are in the works that are planning on taking that a couple steps further. And the people really need to get their own education going on so that they can hold all of their public servants, which includes law enforcement, up to the standard of the oath that they took. So I think we really need to see a re-education of what America is, what our ideals are, and definitely what our Constitution states and limits the government to.
That's a fabulous answer.
Yes.
That is so, I call it blatant misuse of power when we see it in our police force. And I see that they almost need a therapy of sorts because they have disconnected from the people that they serve. And I'm not, I see it. I see all the trickle-down weapons that come from that weren't no longer needed in the wars or freedom-seeking, they call it, in other countries. And I go, our police force is overdressed, and they're undernourished from the people. They've distanced themselves, and it's amazing to me because I see the police are between the politicians and the people. And it must be very confusing to them, much like the Civil War when you had brother against brother, to be able to look at the wonders that you're establishing for them. They recognize you, and they also recognize that there's negative in their space, but they've been condemned in some form because of the deals that are made for all of this equipment and monies and things like that. But I'm sure that they recognize the spirit of what it is that you're putting before them, because I could just tell. I go, they backed off. They saw that the cameras were on, even though they dictated negative publicity that those of us who have read and listened to the news know. I said, I've been reading between the lines for so long, I have a life there. And it's fascinating to me that what you're saying, and I totally agree. We must re-educate ourselves. We must really make a commitment as Americans to understand what is happening to us and what we could do and what we should be doing to stand up and acknowledge that this is our job right now, is to be more aware and to be vigilant, but also to be more participating and helping to that we protect our citizens more. And these issues of the Bundy Ranch I find fascinating, and I love the fact that he had the courage to call you with those words, and that you took the time, because of who you are, to come and give them that trust that says we will stand with you. It's absolutely beautiful.
You guys, I need to interrupt here for a moment because we are getting down to the last part of the show. We probably have about 4 minutes before we go to break, and Ryan won't be with us for the second hour. Ryan, I just want to. Is there anything that you want to say at this time that you want to get out there, and also any type, again, websites or anything like that that you want to have people come and get information at?
Yeah, definitely the Operation Mutual Aid website. As soon as you go onto the page, the very first page there has a pretty good outline of where all these individuals that have agreed to respond to these instances stand. It outlines the mission statement, and it gives you the opportunity to make your voice heard in that light with like-minded individuals. There's forums there to discuss these things. A lot of the truth about some of the events is on there, and the personal sentiments of these guys, so that if there were questions about who we are or what we're doing, I think they can be found there. The most important thing that I want to stress is that there are 3 precepts to every action, and if our actions are backed up by these intentions, these 3 intentions, then we will always know that we were in the right. We will always be comfortable in the fact that.
With me is Laurie Buckley. How you doing, Laurie?
I'm having a happy time. I'm really enjoying the conversation.
I noticed that there was a lot of there was a little bit of controversy in the chat. I'm not sure everybody. There was some, it was a subject matter, and the other side of what the militia is really all about, and what
I am.
You've got like some background noise going on.
I'm trying to get rid of all that. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
okay.
I was just scared. How am I now? Okay.
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. Were you able to hang on to Ryan Payne?
No, Ryan did have to leave.
Oh, darn it! I had a great question for him. Doggone it! Really, what I wanted to talk to him about, and I guess only he can answer this, because someone brought it up in the chat room. How is it that some people, I know men go into the military usually with a, and he's still here on Skype, so why don't you try and dial him back in if you can?
Okay, all right.
Do that in a minute? Okay.
So, Laurie. Oh,
yes,
gosh, what am I doing here? I'm sending a file, not adding a person. Okay, add group to call. Add to group call. All right, add group to call. Sorry. All right, we're seeing if we can add him here for a moment. Yeah, it's. I think a lot of people are still not really in some ways, even if you're talking about what a militia does or how it is working, it just seems like some people just can't get past the thought of what that represents. And again, if you think about how we've been geared to support our troops to fight us for what we think is freedom and a threat. Maybe there's not enough people that are convinced that we're actually under a threat by our own government at this point. But when he talks about having the sniper guns on the families that were out there and the people that were out there, then it's pretty obvious that they were under attack.
It's in direct proportion to, people are sensing things, but they can't quite put a finger on it. And but we've seen it, we know it. It's just that unless it happens directly to us, we don't always recognize it. And this is what is happening. And what we're hearing, Ryan speaks so eloquently about the people who are standing up under the beauty of the same oath they took to defend the Constitution and the people of the United States. That there is an ongoing situation going on where our freedoms are slowly being removed from us, so slowly that if we really understood what it was, we would be more vigilant. And his explanation is helping us to see that there are other things going on and that we must continue to be aware and learn our laws and begin to take the place of what it is to really be a true American, and that is to understand what is happening to our government and in our lives, because their presence at the Bundy Ranch was so wonderful because it set a balance. It said, you're not going to run over these people. We're protecting them, and so you have to behave. And behave they did. And it's so beautiful. I find it fascinating. We don't realize this is going on, but it is.
Ryan, are you here with us? No.
Yes, yeah, I just got back on with it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Because, Patricia Aiken is with us right now. And so she had another question for you that she wanted to ask. So, Patricia.
Thanks, Tere. Thank you, Laurie, too. Ryan, we've had some interesting conversations, short ones where well, we find out every day that we're more on the same page. So I want to ask you about this, because somebody brought it up in the chat room just a little bit ago. And, here you folks were militia, and a lot of other just concerned, I'm going to call them all militia, because they were concerned citizens that came from all over the country. I mean, Ryan Bundy estimated about 3,000 people showed up that Saturday for the standoff. And so, I'm just going to give you a blanket statement. They're all militia, according to your definition. And but here's the question: what is it that of veterans? Here you've got a bunch of veterans on your side that understand the Constitution, served in the same government, military service, different branches of it, and they came out seeing that this was not just wars that we've been involved in. And then you have the other people on the other side that were also veterans, and usually special forces guys, that came out sociopaths. What's the difference? What happened? Why don't they see it? And why is the government using mercenaries against American people?
Well, by very definition, a mercenary is monetarily motivated. They're not motivated by a creed or any personal moral standard. I don't believe that about all of them. I'm just making a general statement. I've met many that are motivated by a creed and that hold themselves to a personal standard. Some of them participated in, most notably, some gentlemen that have been private military contractors in the past came and helped with the private security detail with the Bundys and the militia effort. So it's a blanket statement that I want to make sure isn't applied to everyone involved. But
you guys, just I'm going to interrupt for a second. There is a noise going on. I'm not sure where it's coming from. Is it coming from you, Patricia?
I don't think so. I've got quiet here.
Okay, all right. It stopped. All right, here we go. Boy, that's worse than the chainsaws. Okay, Ryan, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Okay, so in general, a mercenary is not motivated by those things that a patriot is motivated by, which are to uphold his oaths, to defend his family and his community, to ensure our status as a constitutional republic. And so a mercenary would be the perfect person to use if you were trying to accomplish a task that was contrary to those things.
Okay, it's happening again. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt for a second. I just want to make sure this information is Patricia, I do think it's coming from your end. Okay, there you go. No, it's happening again. Okay. Thank you. All right, Ryan, I'm sorry.
That's okay. At any rate, a mercenary or people who are hired guns, hired thugs, however you'd like to put them, I think there's a lot of great men that are mercenaries. I also know that you can accomplish tasks that are of low moral standard, of low character, and are opposed to freedom and liberty with mercenaries. So they would be the perfect individuals to use. Some of the BLM agents there definitely represented themselves the same way that specifically direct action private military contractors would have represented themselves in my experience, and I have worked with them before, especially Daniel P. Love. It boggles my mind as to why a Bureau of Land Management special agent would want to look like a direct action mercenary. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense why the BLM is full of tactical gear. They're all wearing tactical gear. They've got assault weapons, riot control weapons. I mean, the absurdity of the situation is all there. So then you ask, what was the second part of your question, Patricia?
Patricia, I think your mic is muted. For some reason, we can't seem to.
I'm having a hard time managing the audio today, Terry. Sorry. Have I gotten rid of all the background noise?
Okay, but now you have no volume. That's it.
Oh, gee.
I think the second part of her question had to do with how we feel about how I think veterans in general and probably the militia community feels about the government possibly using mercenaries and hiring people.
No, it's happening again.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, there we go. Yes.
Supposedly these are government missions. I think that we abhor the notion that our government would hire people to essentially invade our states and perform acts that are completely contrary to our moral fabric and our societal fabric. Even though there is a breakdown of that going on, there are still those of us that wish to uphold that high moral and liberty-loving standard that Americans should all possess, and we find it completely contrary to our ideals that they would do this, and thus it is just one more example of them representing themselves against the people. They are not of, by, and for the people. So I want to stress that as soon as our government steps outside of the bounds that our Constitution placed on our government, they are no longer legitimate. They are no longer our government. They are a foreign government that is invading and oppressing people, and we have a duty and a responsibility to uphold our Constitution and return our government to within its bounds.
Well, Ryan, I
Well,
agree with that 1,000%. I'm sure Laurie and Terry do as well. But here's the question. So, we've talked about this. How is it that we've taken guns? It's not good for little boys to play with guns anymore. I mean, they don't have their Roy Rogers outfit and their six-shooter on, but they play violent video games. And so, to me, we've bred a nation of sociopaths. We've bred this into men to be sociopathic in the way they.
Yeah, well, there's a complete. As I said, there's a complete breakdown of our fabric. There's in a lot of ways that might be contrary to a lot of people's views. The man, the very essence of what a man is and what he is supposed to be and how he affects the world around him as a man, is being eliminated, especially from American culture. And unfortunately, this is part of a product of the uplifting of women, which is beautiful and great and necessary because of the kind of second stage stance that women have had throughout history. But in elevating one set of people, we can't diminish the necessary need for the other. And the men really need to start digging down within themselves and finding that place in their heart and their soul that solidifies truth, love, and unity in everything they do, and brings the intestinal fortitude required to protect their family, their community, and their Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And you don't have to have taken that oath in an official capacity to do so, but we need to start rediscovering that essence within ourselves that gives us the fortitude to stand and make a difference.
I think Mark Passio does a great job at talking about the feminine, the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, and the balance that there needs to be. And that's one thing I really noticed about the Bundys, the Bundy men. They seem to possess that. They're men's men. I mean, they're ranchers. They work hard. They're very male. Yet they're tender towards women and children, and lighthearted and affable. I mean, they are really balanced people in my mind.
Absolutely, they are, and very religiously, ingrained. They're a great family of high moral standard, high integrity. They're some of the best people I've ever met in my life. And as you mentioned, it's not just the degradation of the male figure and what a man should stand for that's taking place. There is an invasion, a complete re-education process taking place by Hollywood entertainment, as you mentioned, video games, our education system, that is being used to mitigate the effects of what people can do when they come together and they exert their will on the world around them. And the other side has to do this because they know that this is what will lead to our victory. It is ingraining ourselves with truth, love, and unity. It is the direct combat to, lies, hatred, and discord. And that is what the other side sows. That's what's promulgated in our movies and our entertainment and our video games and all those things. So,
I remember having a conversation with my mom one time. Well, it wasn't a conversation; it was an argument where I was telling her that evolution was real. I was surprised, and this was in Catholic school. I mean, my mother was looking at me like, "Wait a minute, we paid money to send you to, a parochial school, and you come home spouting this kind of stuff." I mean, she had to be shocked that I believed in evolution at the time. And I just want, God bless her now. She's passed away for a long time, but I've come to my senses. But I mean, it's absolutely amazing the job that's been done at the public school system level to educate children and miseducate them. And a guy named Yuri Bezmenov probably did the best job at explaining how ideological subversion takes place. And you have to admit, our enemies have done a wonderful job, and we've been asleep at the wheel, so I guess we only have ourselves to blame.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
again, I agree with you, and I love the fact that you guys are mentioning, video games and Hollywood and our educational system and everything else that's being fed to us. And yes, we did fall asleep at the wheel, but it was intentionally done, and I'm really glad that you guys are here, that we're all here, awake or becoming awake, and really evaluating things, taking the blinders off and going, you know what? What's underneath those covers, and, is there another story to this than the one that I'm continually being bombarded with? Anytime you have something bombarding your brain over and over again, you need to question why is it being put there, and to at least search for the other alternative.
Oh,
Tere, I want to insert real quick that we cannot relieve ourselves as we the people. The first three gigantic words of our Constitution, we the people. We cannot relieve ourselves of the responsibility for upholding our moral standards, our Constitution, and exerting our will in our part of our country. We are ultimately responsible. Therefore, we are ultimately to blame. And this is what I think Patricia was driving at, is that we need to refine that thing in ourselves, that personal responsibility that leads us to accept that I have failed. I have failed in numerous aspects, and it is time for me to correct those failures. That is why we are given tribulation, is so that we can correct it, we can learn the logical, reasonable process of correcting our failures, of moving towards the future in a way that is more educated, more sound, and is going to preserve peace and prosperity for humankind as a whole. We can never, ever push the blame off on somebody else. We have to accept that we did this, and it's time for us to change it.
Well said, and I really hope that we do see that time where we have peace and we have prosperity. And I'm looking at these things that are happening in the world as just, this is the chaos that happens before we clear the space free, and we can live in a different way.
Have you ever had a problem with overcooking your cannabis oil? You probably wanted to rip your hair out when you burned off all the THC, right? I even cried one time when my brownies failed to make a good impression at the party. Well, I stopped crying when I found Magical Butter. Magical Butter is a device with a microprocessor controlled program sequencer. It was designed by a scientist and a chemist to precisely extract the benefits of various herbs. Magical Butter easily makes botanical butter, oils, tinctures, lotions, sauces, and more. Magical Butter heats your oil and your herbs at the perfect temperature every time. Check us out at magicalbutter.com because it's magical. Okay, there's a lot of science and chemistry involved, but it sure works like magic.
If you are in the Portland, Oregon area and are an OMMP card holder, then come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market, Portland, Oregon's first and only weekly OMMP market, presented by the Alternative Wellness Center, located at 5241 Southeast 72nd Avenue, 2 blocks south of Foster Boulevard, close to public transportation, held every Sunday 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., connecting quality vendors with patients. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market also has a weekly raffle with products from every vendor, so come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market and have fun while connecting with quality vendors and getting great natural medicine. If you are a vendor and want a chance to connect with OMMP patients, you can check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Alternative Wellness Center or call 971-888-4392. Be sure to register early because space is limited. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market.
I don't know about you, but when I cultivate my clones, I want to give each and every one the best chance to grow into a mature, healthy plant. But after a few cloning cycles, I experienced decreased root density, slimy stems, or even worse, no roots at all. Growers know that reusing cloning collars results in failed clones. And cleaning cloning collars between grow cycles requires extra work and decreases root density. That's why I use PermaClone. Permaclone collars have been engineered to prevent failed clones by providing heat-sterilizable collars, which fit easy clone, turbo clone, or power cloner systems. Permaclone collars can be dry heat sterilized, pressure cooked, or autoclaved to completely kill all bacteria and fungi without harsh chemicals. Start cloning with confidence today and visit us at permaclone.com. Put in the code T for hemp with your order and receive a 10% discount on your purchase.
Headshot Canada. Based in Saskatchewan, Canada, it is shaking up the medical cannabis industry. Headshot Canada helps Canadian citizens in getting a medical marijuana license. They do this by filling out the paperwork. They also help explain your needs to your doctor and also help find the right strain for your condition. For this service, Headshot Canada charges a nominal fee of $100 and your participation in a research and development study to test the effectiveness of different cannabis strains on various medical conditions. Owner and founding farmer Tim Selinsky wants every Canadian to know that you have the universal right to a marijuana license. Unlike Compassion Clubs, Headshot Canada's goal is to get the right strain of cannabis for the ailment at a fair flat rate price for the patient no matter the strain. Headshot Canada offers 57 strains of cannabis grown at family-owned farms in Saskatchewan as opposed to Canadian federal government's one strain of irradiated garbage grown in a lab. Go to headshopcanada.com.
Free? Did you say free? Free hemp? Free hemp? Free hemp video and audio? Free downloads of all the top artists, all the pot artists on planet Earth. Interviews with all the people making the movement, making the hemp movement. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp.
Terry, I'm gonna have to run. I'm late for an obligation that I have, and I just want to thank you again, and thank you, Ryan. I appreciate everything you're doing, and it's an honor and a privilege to work with you.
Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate everything you do.
Patricia, thank you so much. And Ryan, I don't know how much time you have. The rest of the segment is going to be over in about, probably 7 minutes. So do you need to go, or do you want to stay a little bit longer?
No, I actually I have to go visit somebody that's in the hospital right now. So, but I appreciate you having me on, and I hope everybody got at least some bit of truth out of this.
I do too, and I really appreciate you taking your time out today and letting us know. It really has opened my mind in many ways, and it's also I feel a little bit more at ease as well about just in general, because again, we all have this fear factor. We hear the word militia, and we don't understand that it's actually all of us. Right. So we really appreciate it, and we really appreciate your courage, and you're very well spoken, and I wish you peace and safety.
Oh, thank you. It is my life's honor and purpose.
Thank you. Have a good day, sir. Bye. So that was Ryan Payne, who was the first response militia for Bundy Hill, Operation Mutual Aid. And with me still is Laurie Buckley. How you doing, Laurie?
Oh, I'm just happy as pie. It's just fabulous. And see, especially what Ryan was just saying, we are now going through breakthroughs, one by one, many by many, of new ideas and balancing the imbalance that we have endured for quite a few decades. We are awakening from the big sleep. We realize that we have a gig as Americans. I said, democracy, it's a pain in the booty. But it requires our attention because years ago when I was a little kid, I think they said a body was worth about $1.85. And now we see we're so worthy and so valuable that we're being attempted to be misled down a trail of things that are no longer suiting us and we must stand up for. And the fact that we're hearing this great conversations to remind us that these are our days of change and that we must open our minds and hearts and realize that we have a job as Americans, to understand what is happening to us and to stand up for the people and also to help our government, who's gotten a little bit ill, a little out of control with money influence, corporate influence, and deal making. They're so damn happy at it that they've forgotten their job, and that is we're a country that doesn't put up with that. That's not what we're based on. So to see the beautiful conversation about women, I've noticed with my own grandson, I took Grand Theft Auto, which came in as a little present, but one day I crunched the entire game with my hands. I like a Superman. Crunched it. No, he cried. His uncle cried. But I didn't care. I said, I don't like the way in which you're acting. I don't like the way in which the stance you're taking and the disrespect you're showing, because all that running over, stealing cars and running over people and all those angsty things, it spun him up. It made him difficult. It made him lose his mind in a normal sense. And so I had to level the playing field. And I see this, so many people are unwilling to recognize the beauty of the woman. We're seeing it, and we're seeing it coming forward. And this whole thing on birth control and all these things that the politicians have been standing up against to represent their own lobbyists instead of the people of the nation and the freedom of choice. We're breaking through those barriers, and because we'll never go back to the way that it was. And this conversation has been so helpful for us to see what is really going on here and to learn what our part is in it. Because, it's my friend Dusty who used to say there are no mistakes, only retakes. Well, we're re-examining these things now, and we must stand up, because not only for ourselves, but for the future generations, because this is just like the Revolutionary War in a sense, only it's like a consciousness war of subliminals and false representation and lack of compassion and understanding. And, it just isn't going to cut the mustard anymore.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Do something better.
So we have about 3 more minutes of this segment, not too much longer. I just want to let our listeners know that if you have any comments about this, again, our guests are not, Laurie and I are here. Our guests are not here, but, if you've been listening out there, you want to interject some ideas or thoughts about, Ryan Payne and what you've been listening, please do give us a call at 347-688-2902. In a moment, when we come back from the break, I'm going to do the Hollywood Hemptress Report, which is there's some stuff going on in the cannabis world, some good news out there, and also I'm going to bring in. I have a recipe to share with you with the audience. That we have, it's going to be a high-CBD Cannabis Infused Chicken and lettuce cups. And too bad you don't have a camera because the picture, it looks so delicious. Now, if you're a vegetarian, I'm sorry, we don't have that recipe today. But it is really great. And the CBDs, I know people know exactly what CBDs are, but they're a part of the cannabis plant. And they also have lots of healing properties to it, and it doesn't have the THC, and yet it's being administered for various ailments, as well as good things that can happen to the brain. I don't know if again, there's a lot of studies out there how cannabis actually is good for Alzheimer's and dementia. And some of the oils that you can take for that, you can do, like, they have cannabis oils and things like that are high in CBD and not THC. And so, and also the Charlotte's Web strain that they're going to be using, or they have been using on children for their epilepsy, is a CBD high concentrated strain, and it's working really, really well. So here's a wonderful dish coming up here in a moment.
Cool.
So it should be really, really, really fun. And you know what, Laurie, I don't know if Memorial Day happened, right? And so my thought is like, oh, here I am. I'm, eating barbecued whatever that, welcome back to the Freedom of Joy show on Revolution Radio. And with me is Laurie Buckley. Thank you for being here, Laurie.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm actually just inspired so much by our guests and their conversation, and it's really an exciting time.
Yeah, it is. I find it to be very exciting right now too. So and thank you so much for your input and your beautiful energy that you're bringing to the show. I want to give a shout out to Bernard Alvarez. He does a show here, Just Bernard Show, on Tuesdays. at the same time slot as I do it, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. He's with the Global Illumination Council at the GIC.org. I also am a board member of the GIC, and I just, support him. Give him support. He wrote a wonderful book called The Book of One, Returning to Source Wisdom, and, support him. Purchase the book. None of us here are being paid to be on the show, but if you can support us by keeping us going, because, we also doing this is a lot of energy that goes out, and some of us need to have a monetary input flow coming back so that we can continue doing what we're doing. And Bernard kind of needs that today. He doesn't kind of need it. He does need it. So I want to surround him with positive intent and love. And if you can show him some love, his birthday's coming up, by purchasing the Book of One, it would be so appreciated. And now we have the Hollywood Hempress Report. Laurie, we have some good news happening with medical marijuana.
Yippee!
It's like yay, and this makes me happy because again, some people might know this, some people might not know this, but the reason why I became a cannabis activist was because I was involved in a raid that was in the doctor's office in the same building as the medical marijuana dispensary, and held at gunpoint and all that kind of stuff, pictures, mugshots. I'm on file with the FBI. At least I'm on file somewhere. But I mean, not really on file. I mean, I didn't really get booked or arrested or anything like that. But they did take my picture, and I made sure that I smiled, showing the left side of my face, because that's the side that photographs better. If you're going to take a mugshot, make sure it looks good. All right. So, but the good news is that that the U.S. House of Representatives has just voted 219 to 189 to prohibit Department of Justice from using funds for raiding or interfering with state medical marijuana programs. And also, they also voted, yay! They also voted 237 to 170 in favor of prohibiting Department of Justice from using funds to prevent cultivation of industrial hemp in states where it is legal. So this is a huge win at the federal level. Isn't that great?
That's fantastic. We're moving forward. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we are moving forward, and it's great that it's coming through the House of Representatives. When Obama and here's something that they said about Obama, that Obama had promised to do this, to not have funds go towards the towards this, and he didn't for quite a while, but okay, I have to admit. In 2009, Eric Holder, the wonderful Mr. Fast and Furious, he I have to have an attitude about that. I'm sorry. Okay, speak. All right. He, put out a memo saying that as long as California's abiding by state guidelines, do not raid them, and then reneged on that in 2011 with the Cole Memorandum, and stating that now, marijuana has no medicinal value. It is a dangerous drug. People who are doing it for profit, and that now we were subjected to being raided. But my thought is, when they legalized it recreational in Colorado, and all the greedy people out there saw the amount of money that's being made on it, maybe we should stop raiding those guys. Maybe we should stop raiding them. I guess I shouldn't have an attitude. I should just be happy that it stopped. But sometimes I'm wondering, wonder what changed this thing going over. Could it be money? Money,
election year.
An election year. Yeah. So, but. Laurie, we have a great recipe that I want to, give out to everybody. I'm kind of excited to share cannabis recipes with people, but this one looks really wonderful, and it's written by a couple of ladies who actually live in Portland, Oregon, and you can see it's at the Cannabis Now. Well, actually, I'll give you. It's CannabisNowMagazine.com. and it is a High-CBD Cannabis Infused Chicken and Lettuce cups, which means that it's chicken wrapped in lettuce, and so it's got no carbs. And it's written by Laurie and Mary Jane. And these lettuce cups are a crowd favorite. They are super easy to make, and you can eat them at home or bring them to the office with lettuce on the side. So it's low-cal, girls. There is not too much sauce, so they are not messy, and the crunch of the lettuce and the minced chicken and vegetables is a great combo. The food is spicy, and it's got a little bit of sriracha and minced hot peppers added to it. For this recipe, you want to use infused canna oil with the strain Harlequin. It is the sativa dominant hybrid and sought after here in Portland because of the high CBD levels and therefore considerable pain relief. The woman who writes this finds Harlequin is one of the best strains for managing discomfort, and this oil has been hugely helpful with her recent struggle with carpal tunnel. When she medicates with the strain, she can almost instantly feel relief, and it is an impressive strain. So here are the ingredients. 2 to 3 tablespoons of canna oil, 1/3 cup of bell peppers chopped, 1/4 cup scallions chopped, 2 large chicken breasts finely chopped, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, 2 teaspoons of rice wine vinegar, and 1/2 teaspoon of minced ginger, and 8 to 12 lettuce leaves, romaine, and Boston butter. So what you do is the directions are you put this in a large skillet, heat the canna canola oil, and add the peppers and saute them for about 3 to 4 minutes. Then you add the scallions, stir and cook for a minute or two, and remove to a bowl. So you put it in a bowl. And then you add the chicken to the pan and saute until no longer pink, 5 to 6 minutes, stir occasionally. And then return the vegetables to the pan with the chicken and turn up the heat. In a small bowl, combine the soy sauce and cornstarch, vinegar, and ginger, and add the sauce. Stir constantly as the sauce will thicken, and cook for an additional 4 to 6 minutes. It makes a beautiful display. You serve with the lettuce leaves and hot sauce, and serve with lettuce and hot sauce if desired. I just think it sounds, I'm hungry. I think I want this right now.
I'm sold. Ka-ching, baby.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
I don't know about you, but when I cultivate my clones, I want to give each and every one the best chance to grow into a mature, healthy plant. But after a few cloning cycles, I experienced decreased root density, slimy stems, or even worse, no roots at all. Growers know that reusing cloning collars results in failed clones. And cleaning cloning collars between grow cycles requires extra work and decreases root density. That's why I use PermaClone. PermaClone collars have been engineered to prevent failed clones by providing heat sterilizable collars which fit easy clone, turbo clone, or power cloner systems. PermaClone collars can be dry heat sterilized, pressure cooked, or autoclaved to completely kill all bacteria and fungi without harsh chemicals. Start cloning with confidence today and visit us at permaclone.com. Put in the code T for hemp with your order and receive a 10% discount on your purchase.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com, or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Have you ever had a problem with overcooking your cannabis oil? You probably wanted to rip your hair out when you burned off all the THC, right? I even cried one time when my brownies failed to make a good impression at the party. Well, I stopped crying when I found Magical Butter. Magical Butter is a device with a microprocessor-controlled program sequencer. It was designed by a scientist and a chemist to precisely extract the benefits of various herbs. Magical Butter easily makes botanical butter, oils, tinctures, lotions, sauces, and more. Magical Butter heats your oil and your herbs at the perfect temperature every time. Check us out at magicalbutter.com because it's magical. Okay, there's a lot of science and chemistry involved, but it sure works like magic.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp.
I know, it's like cha-ching. So now it says that Laurie has been writing recipes and cookbooks for many years. She is a food editor at 2 national magazines and has a degree from New York University in English and sociology, and an associate's degree from the Culinary Institute of America. Laurie is particularly happy these days, partly due to her possessing a medical marijuana license for a seizure condition now completely and utterly gone. The dearth of good quality of edible marijuana products compelled her to team up with Mary Jane and rock the medical marijuana world. Laurie and Mary Jane products are only available at dispensaries in the Portland, Oregon area. So if you are in the Portland, Oregon area, you have a medical marijuana card, you can definitely check them out. And I was kind of excited to share that one with you. This is actually taken from Time for Hemp's newsletter. We have a new monthly newsletter coming out every month, and it's called Joint Discussions. God, I forgot the name of it. I'm such a stoner. Joint Conversations. That's it. Joint Conversations. And you can check that out at the Time for Hemp, timeforhemp.com, and you can also subscribe to the newsletter, and it will come to you every month with the updated news of what's going on for Time for Hemp, marijuana around the world, and these lovely recipes, apparently.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. So, and there was, there were some comments in the chat right now. What is this, a cooking show? No, it's not a cooking show. But I am I'm doing the Hollywood Hemptress Report on freedom of Joyce, and I'm covering a little bit of cannabis news. I also broadcast Freedom of Joyce on the Time for Hemp network. And I'd like to just take a little bit of a moment to give an update, maybe give a little recipe, and kind of keep people in touch with what is going on in that particular community. Earlier this evening, today, we actually had Ryan Payne with us, who was a militia mutual Operation Mutual Aid. They came to aid the Bundy Hill folks, and also we had Patricia Aiken was speaking on it as well. And then somebody said also that it was much better than a cooking show. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that you feel that way. No, this is not cooking show on Revolution Radio.
You're cooking, baby.
We're really cooking revolutionary food, which would be those that you might get arrested when you eat it. So, Laurie, we've got a few more minutes left for the show. Again, I do want to thank our guests for being here earlier. They couldn't stay for the second hour. And now, do you have something that you would like to read a bit today?
I do. I'm a person who loves to inspire others as well as I educate myself. I like to spread it around. And I came across an article by Chris Hedges called Thomas Paine, Our Contemporary. And when I say the word I will be meaning Chris Hedges. And it goes like this. Cornel West, Richard D. Wolfe, and I, along with moderator Laura Flanders, next Sunday will inaugurate The Anatomy of Revolution, a series of panel discussions focusing on modern revolutionary theorists. His first event will be part of a 2-day conference in New York City sponsored by the Left Forum, and 9 other discussions by West, Wolfe, and me will follow in other venues later this year. Sunday's event will be about Thomas Paine, the author of Common Sense, The Rights of Man, The Age of Reason, the most widely read political essays of the 18th century, works that establish the standards by which rebellion is morally and legally permissible. We will ask whether the conditions for revolt set by Paine have been met with the rise of the corporate state. Should Paine's call for the overthrow of British tyranny inspire our own call for revolution? And if it should, to echo Vladimir Lenin, what must be done? Thomas Paine is America's one great revolutionary theorist. We have produced a slew of admirable anarchists, Alexander Berkman, Emma Goldman, Dorothy Day, and Noam Chomsky, and radical leaders have arisen out of oppressed groups, Sitting Bull, Frederick Douglass, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Fannie Lou Hamer, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Cornel West, and Bell Books. But we don't have a tradition of revolutionists. This makes Paine unique. Paine's brilliance as a writer, his essay Common Sense, is one of the finest pieces of rhetorical writing in the English language, is matched by his clear and unsentimental understanding of British imperial power. No revolutionist can challenge power if he or she does not grasp how power works. This makes Sheldon Wollen's book, Democracy Incorporated, and his concept of inverted totalitarianism as important to us today as Paine's writing on the nature of the British monarchy here in 1776. There were numerous American leaders, including Benjamin Franklin, who hoped to work out an accommodation with the British Crown to keep America's a British colony, just as many now believe that they can work through traditional mechanisms of power, including electoral politics and the judicial system, to reform corporate power. Paine, partly because he did not come to America from England until he was 37, understood that the British Crown had no interest in accommodation. Today, the corporate state, similarly, has no interest in granting any concessions. It became Paine's job to explain to his American audience the reality of British power and what effective resistance could entail. Paine knew that the British monarchy, which wielded the global imperial power that America wields today, was blinded by its hubris and military prowess. It had lost the ability to listen, and as a result had lost the ability to make rational choices. The inhabitants of New York would discover this when British warships and mercenary troops besieged the city. Paine created a new political language. He wrote in crystalline prose. Common Sense was read by hundreds of thousands. It was the first political essay in Enlightenment Europe to call for a separation between civil society and the state, terms that many writers had considered interchangeable. Civil society, Paine argued, must always act as a counterweight against the state in a democracy. Power, he warned, even in a democracy, carries within it the seeds of tyranny. Paine, a George Orwell and James Baldwin did later, used his pen as a weapon. It was a weapon deeply feared by the monarchies in Europe, as well as the Jacobins in France, who imprisoned Paine and planned to execute him for denouncing the Reign of Terror. He spoke an undeniable truth. He called his readers to act upon the truth. My motive and object in all my political works, beginning with Common Sense, Paine remembered in 1806, have been to rescue man from tyranny and false systems and false principles of government and enable him to be free. Where liberty is, there is my country, Benjamin Franklin once said to Paine. Where liberty is not, there is my country, Paine replied. For Paine, the role of citizen extended beyond national borders. The fight of those living under any system of tyranny was his fight. When it shall be said in any country in the world, my poor are happy, neither ignorance nor distress is to be found among them. My jails are empty of prisoners, my streets of beggars, the aged are not in want, the taxes are not oppressive, the rational world is my friend, because I am a friend of happiness. When these things can be said, Paine wrote, then may the country boast of its constitution and its government. The key to social change, as Eric Bonner pointed out in Tom Paine and Revolutionary America, is a change in the nature of language itself, both in the emergence of new words and in old words, taking on new meanings. The call for revolution that was advanced by Paine, as by writers such as Jean-Jacques Rousseau, came through the new language of secular rationalism, rather than the older language of traditional religion. But Paine, unlike Rousseau and other philosophers, wrote in the everyday language of working people. He drew from their experience, and he was the first writer to extend political debate beyond the refined salons to the taverns. He hated the erudite, florid prose of philosophers such as Edmund Burke, calling that type of philosophical and academic language the stills of the word. He saw liberty as being intimately connected with language, and he knew that those who seek to monopolize power always retreat into arcane language that is inaccessible to the masses. Paine's clarity would have to be replicated. We, too, will have to invent a new language. We will have to articulate our reality through communitarianism in an age of diminished resources rather than the language of capitalism. And we will have to do this in a form that is accessible. Bonner cites this as one of Paine's most important achievements. Paine was one of the creators of this secular language of revolution, a language in which timeless discontents, millennial aspirations, and popular traditions were expressed in a strikingly new vocabulary. The very slogans and rallying cries we associate with the revolutions of the late 18th century come from Paine's writings: the rights of man, the age of reason, the age of revolution, and the times that try men's souls. Paine helped to transform the meaning of the key words of political discourse. In common sense, he was among the first writers to use republic in a positive rather than a derogatory sense. In The Rights of Man, he abandoned the old classical definition of democracy as a state where each citizen participated directly in government and created its far broader, far more favorable modern meaning. Even the word revolution was transformed in his writing from a term derived from the motion of planets and implying a cynical view of history to one signifying vast and irreversible social and political change. Paine also understood that despotic regimes do to the soul. Despotic regimes, and here the corporate state serves as a contemporary example, make war on reason and rational thought. They circumscribe free speech and free assembly. They marginalize and silence critics. They make all institutions subservient to despotism, or in our case, corporate power. They employ relentless propaganda to rob people of the language to describe their daily reality. They render them politically alienated. Those who live under despotic regimes, Paine noted, finally lose the ability to communicate their most basic concerns and grievances. And this suppression, Paine understood, has consequences. Let men communicate their thoughts with freedom, Paine wrote, and their indignation fly like a fire spread to the surface, like gunpowder scattered. They kindle, they communicate, but the explosion is neither loud nor dangerous. Keep them under restraint. It is subterranean fire, whose agitation is unseen till it bursts into earthquake or volcano. Finally, Paine understood that war is always the preferred activity of despotic states, for, as he wrote, war is essentially the art of conquering at home. Paine, who refused to profit off his writings, suffered for his courage. When he returned to England, where he wrote The Rights of Man, he was persecuted, as he would later be persecuted in France and in America upon his final return. John Keane, in his biography, Tom Paine, A Political Life, describes some of what Paine endured as a radical in late 18th century England. Government spies tailed him constantly on London Street, sending back a stream of reports to the Home Secretary's office. These parts of the press that functioned as government mouthpieces pelted him with abuse. It is earnestly recommended to Mad Tom, snarled the Times, that he should embark for France and there be naturalized into the regular confusion of a democracy. Broadsheets contained intercepted correspondence from Satan's to citizen Paine, pictured him as a three-hearted, fire-breathing monster called Tom Stitch. Open letters, often identically worded but signed with different pen names, were circulated through taverns and alehouses. Brother weavers and artificers, thundered a gentleman to the inhabitants of Manchester and Salford, do not let us be humbugged by Mr. Paine, who tells us a great many truths in his book in order to shove off his lies. Dozens of sermons and satires directed at Paine were published, many of them written anonymously for commoners by upper-class foes masquerading as commoners.
You see, I grew up in America. I grew up in the land where phrases like, I have a dream, meant something. I grew up where I believed that freedom existed, that that's what I was fighting for. I believed that the Statue of Liberty was a symbol of our liberty, that we all came from all over the world because we didn't want to live underneath the monarchy, that our founding fathers made America the land of the free and the land of the brave. I don't care what you say to me. I don't care if there's a shadow government or there's people out there that's trying to take it away from us. I don't care about that. Because I believe that because we believe it, we can do something about it. We grew up different. I think something happened with the Federal Reserves. I think the bankers are in on it. And this is what I'm going to give a shout out to my girls out there. If he works for Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, or Bank of America, do not have sex with him. Yeah, that's right. We can take our power back. We've got the power. Do you know that there have been acts of terrorism for the promise of 72 virgins? How does that work? Why would somebody do something like that just because they want to have virgins? And this is the afterlife. What happens when that person's done all those 72 virgins? Then you just have 72 women calling you up going, why haven't you called me? I'm pregnant. What do you mean it's not yours? You're the only one.
Bringing it back, freedom of choice. Illuminati straight to my body.
We can take our power back.
Straight to my body.
We can fight the corporations. We can make our own market.
Straight to my body.
We can stop driving cars that have oil in it. We can stop fracking. We can stop being ruled by a monarchy. This is America, damn it, and I'm taking it back.